Hello everyone. So very recently a number of different very expensive high-end concealers have been released to the market. And one that I have been especially interested in trying is this new concealer pen from Victoria Beckham. So Victoria Beckham is probably one of my favorite brands, and I have tried almost all of the products that they offer, and I have liked most of them quite a lot. And so therefore I have kind of high hopes anytime they release a new product that it might be something that will work for me. And in addition, Victoria Beckham worked with a company called Augustinus Bader to create this concealer pen. And Augustinus Bader makes very expensive skincare. And last year I did a little experiment where I tried using the Augustinus Bader Rich Cream on just half of my face for the whole year to see if it made a difference. And in the end, I kind of thought that it did. And so I've continued to use that cream despite the fact that it is very, very expensive. And I did do a video on this, so if you want to take a look at it yourself to see what you think, then you can take a look at that video. I will link it for you. So when they announced that they were going to be having this concealer, I was kind of excited about it. And this is a concealer that is supposed to not only look good on your face in the short run in terms of covering things up, but it's also supposed to have some long-run skincare benefits. Now this product costs $68 for 0.08 ounces, and so compared to really all of the other foundation or concealer products that I have in my collection, I would say that this is by far the most expensive product on a per milliliter basis that I have. But because it seemed like it was going to be a really interesting product, I did want to spring for it anyway. Now unfortunately, this concealer has turned out to have an unexpected strong and what I consider to be an unpleasant scent. And although I've tried continuing to use the product, despite this scent, it has started to give me some headaches. And so therefore that is going to keep me from using this product over the long term, unfortunately. And although I feel like I'm pretty good at reading ingredient lists, it took me a little while to try to figure out which ingredient it was in this that was problematic for me. And I was a little bit surprised that Victoria Beckham would put an ingredient like this into a product, considering that they are considering themselves to be a clean beauty company. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, but I also want to just talk about the performance of this concealer, because I know that not everyone will be bothered by this scent. And because in other ways, I do think it's an interesting product, and I do think that there may be potential there for a lot of people, because I do think that some of the performance is pretty good. So in this video, what I'm going to be doing is showing you some footage of me putting the concealer on, and then also talking about how it has worn. I have tried it at least 3 or 4 times so far, and I've worn it for several hours on a few different occasions. So I do feel like I have a pretty good sense of how this is working for me. I think that I would be interested in continuing to use it, certainly if it didn't have this problematic scent for me. And so I think that many people may be interested in trying it out as well. And then in addition, I have a couple of other fairly new Victoria Beckham products that I haven't really talked about on this channel. The first one is a new brow gel, which is called Featherfix, and so I have one of these. And then they also have a line of cleansers. So I have both of the cleansers in this duo. I have one that is called the Daily Lactic Acid Cleanser and one that is called the Daily Oil Cleanser. And I have been using these quite a bit over the past couple of months, and so I can give you a report on these cleansers as well. And then also in this video, I will be applying a full face of Victoria Beckham makeup. So there are quite a few products that I do really like, so I wanted to show you those while we are here. And I will be giving you brief mini reviews on every product of theirs that I've tried. So first, a little bit of information about me. I'm 60 years old, and I have dry and sensitive skin, and I have never had any kind of cosmetic procedures like injections or surgery, and I don't intend to do that. And so I am definitely interested in products that can help me to look a little bit younger and maybe a little bit fresher, and especially that don't exacerbate the look of the wrinkles and other kinds of textural issues that I have on my face. So that is one reason that this particular concealer was most interesting to me. And over the past 3 years, I've tried more than 1,000 makeup products, and so I do have a pretty good basis of comparison for everything that I try out here. I do tend to go for fairly simple and fairly understated makeup looks of the kind that I can put on in maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and so therefore that's what I'm looking for from products from companies like Victoria Beckham as well. And since I have been trying out products, I have realized that there are certain ingredients that always do irritate my sensitive skin. And I know that these ingredients tend to be very irritating for many other people as well. And so I just don't talk about products that contain those particular ingredients on this channel. So apparently the reason that this particular concealer is so expensive is because it includes the Augustinus Bader proprietary peptide that they use in all of their products. So Augustinus Bader is a professor from Germany who specializes in stem cells, and he originally was interested in getting a burn cream to the market that would help people who had had very severe skin burns, but when it became difficult to get the research for that financed, he decided to start a skincare company instead. And this has been very popular, especially among people from Hollywood. And I am not certain exactly what this proprietary peptide does or how it works or exactly how much of it is in any of these products. But it does seem to me that this product has done some things for my skin that I have not found to be the case in any of the other really expensive skincare that I have also used. So the question that I've always had with regard to all of the Augustinus Bader products is how much of this peptide is in each one of these if this is the thing that's really driving the cost. So the product that I've used has been their standard product, which is called the Rich Cream, and it seems to have a fair amount of this product in it. Supposedly this was the first product that they introduced to the market. And since they introduced this to the market, they've come out with a bunch of other products, including eye creams and cleansers and a whole bunch of different things. And now there is this concealer, and whether or not the concealer has a really high percentage of this particular ingredient in it, or whether or not the percentage is considerably lower, is really hard to say because that is not the kind of information that they are revealing. So what they are saying is that in the short run, this is supposed to be a concealer that melds with your skin and looks very natural and is offering light to medium coverage of issues that you may have on your skin, but that over time, starting at about 4 weeks, you may also notice some improvements in your skin even when you're not wearing the concealer. And what they are suggesting may be happening is that it may be addressing wrinkles, and it may be helping with dark circles, and also decreasing eye puffiness. And possibly it may be working on hyperpigmentation as well, they say. And there are a total of 16 shades, and my own skin tends to be on the border between fair and light in most foundation lines, and it tends to be fairly neutral, leaning towards kind of a peachiness. And in this line, I decided to purchase the concealer that is called FL2 or a Fair Light 2, and they are saying that this is light with a neutral warm undertone. And I would say for me that this is probably about as good of a match with regard to a concealer as I have gotten. So the way that this concealer works is that there is a little brush on the top, and then on the bottom there is this button. So what you're supposed to do is to turn it upside down, and then you press the button, and when you do that, it makes a little click, and this supposedly causes the concealer to come out from under the brush and then to saturate the brush. And then when the brush is saturated, then you can use this to cover over different little areas in your face with this tiny little brush. So it really seems to be designed primarily for spot concealing on the face, and then also for broader use under the eyes. I don't see a lot of information suggesting that this can or should be used more broadly on the face, such as around the nose or on the chin. And actually, from a personal perspective, when I've tried to use it in those areas, I don't think it has been as successful as when I've just used it for tiny little spot concealing or when I've used it under my eyes. And so if we take this concealer, I can show you a little bit about what it looks like. So you can make just a tiny little dot here and then just blend it in really easily. And it's slightly sticky, but it's fairly natural looking with just a minimum amount of blending. And it's a little bit lighter on my hand because my hands are a little bit darker from the sun, but I think that on my face this has been quite a good match. And one thing that I have found is that I really don't feel that I need any setting powder at all with this. It does dry down pretty fast, and I do think that it feels natural with just a tiny little bit of tackiness when it does dry down. And in terms of the size of this brush, if you're familiar with this little brush from Westman Atelier, which is called a spot check brush, which Gucci Westman suggests that you use with her foundation stick to just go into tiny little areas. This Victoria Beckham brush, it's even more slightly smaller than the Westman Atelier spot check brush. This is a little smaller than a lipstick brush, I would suggest. Now, I've been wearing this concealer for several hours now, and so maybe we can just take a really close look at my face, and you can see what you think. What I feel like is that around the area of my eyes, I think that it looks pretty good in these under eye areas, and I think that the places that I put it on my face in terms of just covering little blemishes, such as pimples or age spots, that it looks really nice for that. It does work very, very well for that. I feel like on my chin and in the area above my mouth, it actually is making the pore situation actually look worse. That is not something that I really notice that much on my face, the pores. But in this case, I do think that I'm noticing them more with this particular product on. And I did put quite a bit of it on my nose, but I'm not feeling like it's doing anything important on my nose. I think that other concealers work just as well around my nose area. And it certainly is very, very expensive to be using fairly broadly on so much of my face. So I do feel like if I was going to continue to use this product, I think that I would reserve this for just tiny little areas of spots covered over by that little brush, and then to use it a little bit more broadly on my under eyes, because I do think it looks nice on the under eyes. Now, personally, what I usually do is to use cream concealer on most of my face, and if I do use a liquid concealer, I have, at least historically, only been using it as an eyelid primer, and I do think that on my very sensitive and dry eyelids that this has worked pretty well for me as a eyeshadow primer, or just to cover up all of the darkness on my eyes that has gotten worse as I've gotten older. Now, with this Victoria Beckham concealer, that is something that I definitely would not want to do. I definitely would not be using it on my eyelids. I do think that that has been a little bit irritating the time that I tried that, and I also think that that is a very expensive use of this product to put it all over the eyelids. So I would be using a different concealer of some sort for both my eyelids and then also for the other types of concealing, like here and here and here and on my forehead or wherever else I was using it besides on my under eyes. And I should point out that this product has a 6-month usage life, so this is something that you do want to use up if you're going to buy it. You don't want to save it because I'm not sure how well it would last. My experience with Victoria Beckham and Augustinus Bader products was with their primer, and I felt like the primer was fine for me up front and that it didn't irritate my face, and I had some of it left and I hadn't used it, and I think that has a 6-month usage life too. Maybe it's 12 months. I need to go back and check. But in any case, at some point after the usage life was over, I did go back and use it, and I did find that that product irritated my face a little bit at that point. So I do feel like it's probably a good idea with these kinds of products to go ahead and use them up within the usage life, because you don't want to waste them if you're going to spend that much money on them. So with some concealers, I have found that it's probably a really good idea to just use them in conjunction with foundation, and they don't necessarily work all that well on their own, and that also, of course, some kinds of concealers really need powder or they're not going to work at all. In this case, I don't think that I need any powder, and I don't think that I need any foundation at all. And I think that in terms of how this concealer looks on my skin, I think it looks about as good as any kind of concealer that I have ever put on my skin, with the exception of exacerbating the texture a little bit in these areas. So the real question that I think I would have if I were going to think about actually using this product is whether or not this would make any difference that was going beyond the kinds of benefits that I already am getting from using the Augustinus Bader Rich Cream, and also whether or not it would be more likely or less likely that I would get benefits from this than it would if I were using something like the Augustinus Bader Eye Cream. And that is the thing that kind of is the most frustrating to me about Augustinus Bader at this point, is that I do kind of feel like the more that I use, probably it's going to be better, but at some point there's probably some diminishing returns, and it is hard to know from product to product which one is going to be the best value. But certainly I do think that just in terms of the appearance, that this concealer does look really, really good on my skin, and that would make me really want to use it all up if I could tolerate the smell. So in terms of the smell of this product, you know, there are certain ingredients that I know are going to have a scent, and then in addition, whenever I see an ingredient list, I run it through the Environmental Working Group, Build Your Own Rating software, and so that will pick out any ingredients that they consider to be mildly or severely problematic. And in this case, there were several natural processed fragrances that I did expect to have a scent, and so those included linalool, which is citrus, and citronellol, and also a geraniol. And then it also has some rose extract in it, and also some benzyl alcohol. And benzyl alcohol also has a kind of a floral type of a scent to it. So I did expect it to have a scent, and I also often react to essential oils or other kinds of processed fragrances. And so therefore I did wonder if this was going to make my face react. And I really haven't felt that this particular product has caused the kind of irritation that I usually get when I am reacting to natural processed fragrances. So usually what I feel like is that my skin gets itchy and it gets uncomfortable, and if I wear it too much, it gets red. And I don't feel like that has really happened too much with this particular product. I do feel like when I have looked at my face closely recently that it does look like it's in a little bit worse shape in terms of pimples or redness, but in certain areas. But I think that may be because recently I've had kind of a viral infection maybe, and so that may have just kind of thrown off everything a little bit. So I'm not blaming this for causing skin irritation at all, but it is the case that it does have a scent that bothered me a little bit as soon as I smelled it, and that the more that I have worn this, the more annoying it has gotten. And it seemed to me from the very beginning that this fragrance is so tenacious that it is something that's a little bit more unusual, and something that is probably a synthetic fragrance. So finally, I took a really hard look at every ingredient that is in this product to see what the scent could be, and it seems to me pretty clear that the culprit here is an ingredient that is called ethylene brosolate. And this is a scent ingredient that was formulated by DuPont in 1934, and it is designed to give a musky type note to perfume. So it actually is a perfumery ingredient, and it actually is a synthetic ingredient. Now, the more that I think about it, the more that I believe that ethylene brosolate is very similar to vanillin, in that both of these are actually scent ingredients that are present in the natural world and that you may encounter in various places. There are plants that make ethylene brosolate, and also animals make it as part of, the musky smell that they may emit. But most of the vanillin, and probably all of the ethylene brosolate that is used in the cosmetic industry, this all comes from petroleum. And I would say that in both of these cases, I am able to tolerate these ingredients in terms of they're not irritating my skin, but that I find the synthetic versions of them to be somewhat offensive, and that the more that I ignore my senses and continue to use them anyway, the more annoying they get to me. Now, I think that the reason that I wasn't familiar with this one is because it's usually not used in cleaner beauty products, and if it is used in beauty products in general, it usually is just folded in under the term fragrance. Now, there is one product that I did encounter about a year ago that I think does include this, and that is the Fenty Pro Filter Foundation. So this does include just a fragrance on the ingredient list, and I was surprised when I tried a sample of that product that it actually didn't irritate my skin either. And I felt like the fragrance in that it seemed to me to be a synthetic fragrance along the lines of vanillin. I wondered if it even could be vanillin mixed with something. But now that I think back on it, I think it's the same fragrance that is present in this Victoria Beckham concealer. Another scent that I would put in the same category is the ethylene bracelet, and the vanillin is Ambrox. And usually Ambrox, when it's used in perfumes, it is the synthetic version. And this synthetic version can be found in, for instance, the perfume that is called Juliet Has a Gun, Not a Perfume, which is really only Ambrox. And it also can be found in Glossier U, and both of those products do give me a headache. But what I found was that when I recently used the RMS perfume, which is called Scarlet Moon, that is supposed to have Ambrox in it, but that did not give me a headache at all, and I found the smell of that to be just lovely. And it turns out that that does not have the synthetic Ambrox in it. It actually has a natural Ambrox. So I think that again and again what I am concluding is that even if something is supposed to have the same chemical structure, but it is being made from petrochemicals, I find that my body does not really like that, and I am not trying to be picky here, but I do think that definitely all of these things are giving me headaches and making me feel like not very happy. One thing that I did just notice is that although in the past EWG has rated vanillin as not being an issue of concern, just very recently they have started giving it a 3 on their list. So maybe they are finding some issues with that as well. Now, certainly it's the case that with vanillin, a lot of people really like it, or at least they are willing to tolerate it. But it also does seem to be the case with vanillin that there are quite a lot of people that do not like it and that would prefer that it not be in their products. And I think that these other substances, especially this ethylene bracelet, this may be in the same category. So when I look on EWG with ethylene bracelet, they are giving it a 1. But what I have realized is that is not really because anyone has proven that it is going to be safe for everyone, but rather because there have been very, very few studies ever that have shown anything about it at all. And I think that the reason is because, first of all, this is a substance that is present in smaller amounts in the natural environment. And secondly, because it was released almost 100 years ago and there haven't been any catastrophes associated with it. And so therefore, it seems to have been put in that category of generally recognized as safe. So people aren't going to worry about it too much and people are not too motivated to study it. And so that does not necessarily mean that it's going to be okay for everybody, just that it is not considered to be a substance of big concern among scientists at this point. There is some evidence, on the other hand, that it can give headaches to some people. And even though I don't think it's irritated my own skin, there is some evidence that it also can cause skin irritation in some people. So unfortunately, this is not a product that is going to work for me, but that does not necessarily mean that it's not going to work for everyone else. Certainly, there are many people that seem to be using this concealer fine and not having a problem with it. And even for people who have sensitive skin or who are sensitive to scents, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to be able to tolerate this scent. And I do have confidence that if people use this particular product and then they end up not being able to tolerate it for whatever reason, I do think that everything that I know about Victoria Beckham suggests that they do stand behind their products. So let's take another look at all of the ingredients for this concealer pen just to see if there's anything else that I haven't brought up. It has oat kernel extract in it. I feel like oat kernel extract is probably good as long as it's not contaminated with glyphosate, which does make me worried. But I don't think that I'm reacting to this concealer pen, so that part has been good. Like many of the Augustinus Bader products, it has a oil in it that's called Cisaemborium Seed oil, and this is probably responsible for the anti-puffing claims that they are making, and I think that it may have been helpful for me in terms of anti-puffing on my face in general, and so I think that that could be useful. But there are some people that do react to that in particular. And then in addition to the oligopeptide 177, which is the proprietary one from Augustinus Bader, there are several other peptides in here, including the polyglutamic acid and a few other things that are listed as peptides. And there's prickly pear stem extract, which is another anti-wrinkling, anti-aging type ingredient. So in general, I do think that there are some pretty good anti-aging ingredients in this particular concealer, and that there is potential for it to be helpful if people can tolerate that smell. So in addition to the scent, the second issue that I think is a real concern here is the price. And usually I'm fairly price insensitive when it comes to particular products, and if a product is just a little more expensive than others, then that's not something that's going to sway me that much one way or the other. But in this case, the price difference between this product and the other concealers that are on the market is so high that I think it probably is something that everyone is going to want to take into consideration. So if we look at the other higher end concealers that are out there, one that I reviewed yesterday, for instance, is from a company called Sarah Creel. And Sarah Creel is a brand new company, and Sarah Creel was actually the co-founder of Victoria Beckham. And now she has her own line of beauty products that are supposed to be designed specifically for women who are over 40 and who are interested in cleaner beauty products. And so her particular concealer is priced at $6.44 per milliliter. It comes in a pretty large jar, so the price, the total price is fairly high, but nonetheless, that's kind of a moderate price compared to some of these other concealers. And then right now I also am evaluating the Westman Atelier concealer, which is $8 per milliliter. And then some of the concealers that are a little bit less expensive than that include the Saie Slip Tint concealer that I actually really do like, and that one is $5.58 a milliliter. Kosas, which is about $5 a milliliter. House Labs, which is about $4.50 a milliliter. Armani, which I really find this hard to believe, I need to recalculate this, is $3.50 per milliliter. And then there is Victoria Beckham, which is a whopping $28.33 per milliliter, or about 3.5 times as expensive as the Westman Atelier one. So I don't even really consider these to be competitors of one another. If they are competitors of one another, then I think that the price of this one is way out of line. This is a concealer that is really designed for people that are probably Augustinus Bader fans and that want to really splurge on something and that really feel like this is an important purchase to them, I think. And I really feel like I kind of fall into that category myself. I certainly have a lot of enthusiasm for Augustinus Bader at this point, so I've been trying some other products that that company offers. And I think that I would have continued to use up this concealer if it hadn't had this odor to it. But whether or not I would continue to buy it, I'm not so sure. I feel like probably if you use it every day, it's going to run out of that concealer in that little brush very, very quickly. And at that point, $68 would be a kind of a hard pill to swallow to buy more, probably. So I think that it has been a really interesting thing for me to have tried out. And as a one-time splurge, I think that it was kind of fun. And I really wish that they hadn't ruined it by putting that particular scent into it. But in general, I would have to really, 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 really like it to buy it again, I think. But I think so far, I really do think that it looks lovely on my eyes. I'm not sure that I have seen a concealer of any sort on my eyes, under eye area, that I think has looked better. And I do think that the way that it is able to cover over little blemishes is very nice. I think it's a lot better than really using that little spot concealer brush along with some kind of a cream concealer. I think that this is sticky enough that if I put it in a very discreet place that it kind of stays there. And so I really would like to be able to use it just for that purpose. But if I only used it for that purpose, then I wonder how long it would take to use it all up. And it is supposed to be gone in 6 months. So some of the Victoria Beckham products I think are reasonably priced for people that are of only, have a moderate amount of money to spend on luxury type products. And then some of them seem to be way over the top, and for people that really are, in the more wealthy category. And I feel like maybe this concealer is in that second category. So now before I go on to showing you the footage of me putting on a full face of Victoria Beckham makeup, let's talk briefly about these new cleansing products. So this is quite expensive also. This is, I think, $130 for the set of these, or you can buy each one for $70. And I think that the amount of product that you get is reasonable, so that's not part of the issue. At least it's not more expensive than you were bargaining for. So what these are, first of all, there's a cleansing oil, and I think that this is a nice cleansing oil. It seems nice and clean to me. It doesn't have any fragrance in it. It doesn't have any ingredients in it that have done anything to be irritating at all. I think it's been very nice for my skin. I don't think that it's necessarily significantly different from some of the other cleansing oils that have not had fragrance in them that I've had some success with. So you can look at a page of the products that I really like. I think that as a cleansing my makeup off type of step, the thing that I really like is to not have to do a second cleanse. So there are a couple products that I feel that I can just take my makeup off, and that they do a good job, and that once I am done with that, then I'm done. And the one that I like most is the Lisa Eldridge Cleansing Balm, and I also like some of the pharmacy products. I specifically like the ones that are fruit flavored or vanilla flavored. So I don't like the Green Clean one, and because that has essential oils in it, and I don't so much like their Clearly Clean one, because that one I feel like I need to use a double cleanse, or it leaves a lot of residue on my skin. But I like the one that is like the vanilla one, or the strawberry, or the peach one. So I've had really success with those. And it took me a long time to figure this out, but I also really like Clinique Take the Day Off. And it's kind of a little bit exasperating that it took me this long to figure out that that's actually a very, very good product. Now in this case, this is not a product that I can only use it and then be done with it. I really do need to use a second cleanse with this, because it's just a regular oil. I think that the oils in this are fairly high quality, so that part is good. But I really do need to use a second cleanse, and I just tend to be a little impatient and like to be done with things. And so I don't mind using this product, and I don't mind using it in conjunction with the Victoria Beckham second cleanse, and I probably eventually will use this bottle up. But in general, I don't think I'll purchase it again, mostly because I don't want to do a second cleanse, and then also because it is a lot more expensive than some of the other products. And in addition to that, I would really prefer that a product be in lotion or balm form, and this one is in oil form, and that just seems a little messier to me than I prefer. But it is a very clean product, and it has not irritated my skin at all, and I do feel good about using it. And then the second cleanse in this set is called the Daily Lactic Acid Gel Cleanser. So as it states, it does have a little bit of a hydroxy acid in it, so therefore it's supposed to be a little bit exfoliating. And I do find that many exfoliators are a little bit too rough for my skin, but I think that this is kind of at a nice level, that I am able to use this, maybe not every time I cleanse, but that I am able to use this and I don't feel like my skin is irritated as a result. So I've been using this a few times a week, and I think it's a very nice cleanser. And I don't think there's a whole lot of other cleansers on the market that have done a great job, that do have the lactic acid in them. And again, although I don't like to use lactic acid products very often or at very strong strength, I think that in terms of my own really delicate skin, this has actually been a nice amount for me. So I do like this one. Whether or not I like it is enough to spend $70 to buy it again once it's all finished. I kind of doubt that. There are some cleansers that I might spend $70 on repeatedly. I am actually really liking the Augustinus Bader cleanser, and so I might buy that one again. But I do think that I will use this one up eventually. But again, I'm only using it a few times a week, so it's going to be a while. So in general, Victoria Beckham just tends to be really high priced. And I think that for quite a while, my explanation for that was because their packaging was so beautiful, because so much of the packaging is glass and metal and no plastic. This is actually in plastic, and so they don't have that excuse. If it were in glass, I feel like the $70 might be a little bit more justifiable. But on the other hand, if it were in glass, then it would be a lot harder to travel with, so that might be why they didn't put it in the glass. So now I'll show you the footage of me putting on the rest of the face-up makeup that I am wearing today. So by the way, before I put on the concealer, I put on my usual Ilia base face milk, and I do like that a lot, and I do feel that it works really well with a really wide variety of different kinds of foundation and concealer and other kinds of makeup products. And so I tend to use that as my default, and I think that it has worked well today, as well as with many other different products. After I put on the concealer, then I used this eyebrow pencil, which is called the Baby Blade, and this is in the shade Taupe, and it comes with a spoolie on one end. And this is supposed to be giving the look of microblading, I think, and this actually is something that I always was kind of skeptical about, because I don't really like the look of microblading anyway. I feel like microblading looks kind of fake, and that is one of the main reasons that I wouldn't do it myself. The other reason is that I don't think that tattooing might be good for my health in terms of the ink. I'm just so reactive to everything that I'd probably be reactive to the tattoo ink as well. But in this case, I think that it really is a kind of a difficult eyebrow pencil for me to use to get a really natural look. I feel like the first time that I used it, it broke off immediately, so I lost a big piece, and this was kind of an expensive pencil. And that in general, it is very hard for me to get what I think is a really natural look. And I also feel like when I put this on today that the pencil is kind of on the reddish side, even though it's supposed to be taupe, and that the pencils that I really like tend to lean a little bit more cool, which I think works better with my gray hair. So in general, I have used this pencil a variety of times when I was trying to figure out if I could make it work better. And then I've used it in videos, but other than that, I wouldn't reach for this. It's not a pencil that I really like very much. And then next, let's talk about this Featherfix Brow Gel. So this is new to the market, and it has an interesting applicator because it just has a few little bristles that are kind of short just on one side of the brush. And so I have not found this to work all that well for my very, very sparse brows. So what I feel like I need to do is a two-step process where I fill in my brows with a pencil, and then I go over and I coat all of the hairs with the brow gel. And if I do both of those things together, then I can get a fairly natural look. I feel like with this particular gel, it tends to be a little bit thin. It certainly, I think, was the case when I first opened this, that it wasn't doing all that great of a job of coating all of my hairs. I think that with my really thick hairs, of the few that I have on my brows, that it does okay with those. But the brow gel that I really like is the one from Jones Road, and I feel like that one is able to take all kinds of tiny little thin peach fuzz type hairs and make them look like actual brow hairs. And that makes a real difference in terms of whether or not it looks like I have a full brow. And this one, even compared to ones like the Kosas one or the Jane Iredale one, I feel like the formula is fairly thin, and so it's not doing as good of a job of coating those really thin hairs as some of those other brow gels, and therefore that the look that I'm getting is not one that I like as much. And it also is the case that this is fairly much the same shade as that eyebrow pencil, and I do think that it would be better if it were just a little bit cooler to go with my gray hair. And they do not have very many shades in this, certainly not as many as a company like Kosas does. So because brow gels are expensive and because I go through them fairly quickly, I have been trying to use this on occasion, but it is not one that I intend to buy again. And then, as I say, I don't think that the Victoria Beckham concealer would be appropriate at all as an eyelid primer. I think that it has too many problematic ingredients in it, and I also think that the texture would not be right, and I don't think that eyeshadow would stick to it. And so as an eyelid primer, I got out my Saie Slip Tint concealer, and I have been really surprised at how much I have liked this concealer. I started out just using it on my eyelids, but on occasion I would start using it on other areas of my face rather than reaching for a different product. And I feel like this has been working really, really well. And that what I really need to do is to take this and compare it to the Sarah Creel one, which I also think has been working really well, and to see if we can see a difference. Because even though I really like that Sarah Creel one, and even though I am still enthusiastic about this one, I feel like I like the same one almost as much. But maybe if we take a close look on camera, I will decide differently. And then I have the Victoria Beckham bronzer in their lightest shade. And my feeling about this bronzer is that it's really a little bit too light for me, and that it also is a formula that I find to be a little bit on the old-fashioned side. So I haven't really used it that much. It is in this really gorgeous container, though, which is all glass and metal and like tortoise shell. So I really enjoy using it because of the packaging when I get it out, and usually I don't even like packaging that much. But what I do kind of like this for on occasion is using it as a very understated eyeshadow, or as like an eyeshadow type base. So that's what I did in this video. I used this color sort of more broadly on my eyes, and then this darker color, which is supposed to be the contour shade along the corners of my eyes, just to give them a little bit of depth and just to kind of even things out rather than having the concealer be sort of bare. And then I also used a little bit of that just as a bronzer, just to give myself a little bit of a tan since I had it out. And of course, Victoria Beckham does make a line of eyeliners, and a lot of people really love those eyeliners. The issue that I had with the eyeliner is that I do feel like it was a little bit irritating to my eyes, so I am not using that. It is an eyeliner that gives kind of a very easily a kind of a heavy, smoky type of an eye. So that is something that you might kind of expect, because that seems to be the kind of eye look that Victoria Beckham wears every day. And so if you want to look like Victoria Beckham in terms of your makeup, then buying one of those pencils is a very good start. And I enjoyed that pencil. It definitely gave me a look that was a little bit more forward in terms of that smokiness than I usually get, but I really can't wear that because it does irritate my eyes. I have had a lot of success with the Victoria Beckham Eyewear pencils, though. So these do not seem to be irritating to my eyes at all. There is one version of it, the sparkly version, that I think it's called Oyster, that has aluminum powder in it that I have not purchased, but I have almost all the rest of the colors, and they all have been fine for me, and at least if I put a concealer on first, they haven't been irritating at all. And so the one that I used today is just a little bit as an eyeliner, is the Cornflower Blue one, I think it's called. And I think that this is an eyeliner color that is a little bit much if I were to wear it all over my eyes. I think that that's kind of bright, and I don't know if I do all that well usually with bright pastels, but I think just using this a little bit as a definition eyeliner, I think that that worked very well. And in general, I do like these Eyewear eye sticks, except for the fact that I've had a few of them break. So there was one occasion where I purchased 3 of them in the mail, and 2 of them arrived and they were already broken, and that was not an issue. And then there was one that I thought was okay, but then within a period of a few weeks, it kind of fell apart and fell out of the container, and then it started to kind of shrivel up, and I really did have the cap on tightly, so that was a little bit disappointing. So I think that compared to, for instance, the Bobbi Brown eye sticks, that the quality assurance may be a little bit lower on these pencils, but when they are working, I think that these are really terrific, and I have really enjoyed them a lot. And I think it probably would be worth it for me to do a whole video on eyeshadow sticks at some point in the future, and so that is why I'm not focusing more on these eyeshadow sticks in this video, but hopefully we can focus on that and show you all of the ones that I have fairly soon. And then the next product that I have is called Lid Luster. And so I actually like these enough that I have 3 different shades of them, so you can take a look at the 3 shades that I have. The first one that I got was called Tea Rose, and it's kind of a pinkish, brownish type color. And I do think it's really pretty, but I thought that it was not extraordinary enough for me to want to buy more. But then very recently I became interested in blue eyeshadows, and so I spent a lot of time looking for all of the different blue eyeshadows that were available, and I ended up buying one from Victoria Beckham that is called Midnight, and that one I thought was just stunning and probably the best blue eyeshadow that I found. And so because of that, I became kind of excited, and I also bought another shade from Victoria Beckham, which is called Velvet, and that is a kind of a green shade. And I think that all 3 of these, now that I look at them, they're all really beautiful, and especially this blue one. So I thought that I would take the opportunity in this video to put some of that blue eyeshadow on. And it's a little bit tricky to put on because it is kind of flaky, and it can make a little bit of a mess, and you don't want to put too much of it on. But I think that you can see in this video that it started out by looking kind of messed up, but that it was pretty easy to get to be back in place, and I didn't have to start over again or anything. And I do think that even as a casual look like what I'm wearing today, I think that it's not too bad. I think it looks a little bit sparkly and a little bit pretty and a little bit, more forward in terms of the look, but I don't feel like it's too much even for a day or even for wearing a casual outfit. I think it's just a little bit fun. I think the fact that it is a one and done eyeshadow rather than, a whole look, I think that makes it feel a little more casual and a little bit more easy to incorporate into whatever else I am wearing. And so now I'm enthusiastic enough about this that I really feel like I'm going to just keep that blue shade out and to try to wear it fairly often because I do really, really like it. Now these products, they do have a lot of quartz in them, and so they are a little sparkly, and I have not found them to be irritating at all, but I do suspect that could be of concern for some people, or that it might be irritating for some people. So that could be something to think about when you decide if you're interested in this product. And as I say, the first one that I bought was the Tea Rose one, and I got that one maybe 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I do think it's more dry than the other 2 shades at this point, but I do think it also goes on fairly easily. It is still usable. I still feel comfortable using it. And so I think that these may have some lasting power to them, fortunately. So I am really happy to have found another Victoria Beckham product that I not only just like, but that I now am really excited about. And then in terms of lip liners, I think that probably at this point I would say that my favorite lip liners are the ones from Chanel and the ones from Tom Ford. But these Victoria Beckham ones, I think that they are very close. I think that they have performed really, really well for me. And I have one that is in shade 3, which is what I'm wearing in the video footage today. And then I also have the red one, and I think that both of these have been really terrific for me. And of course, they don't have any scent in them. They don't have any fragrance. I haven't found them to be irritating at all. And I've had both of these, I think, for well over 2 years, maybe even 3 years, and they seem to be holding up just fine, so I'm happy about that. And I definitely am a big fan of Victoria Beckham's lipsticks, and I have talked about those a number of times on this channel. They are moderately expensive in terms of the price, but they are tiny little lipsticks, and so that is, I've never calculated it on a per gram basis, but certainly compared to a lot of other lipsticks on the market, they would be expensive in terms of the per gram cost. But I do think that they go on very nicely. They look, you know, Victoria Beckham is not really into a strong lip, and I do think that when I wear these, that my lip looks really pretty and nice, but it doesn't look like they're carrying away with me. The shade that I put on today is called Spark, I think, and I think that's a very pretty shade. And then I have a couple of other shades too, including the red one, which I think is a very nice red lip that I can pull off. Again, in a lot of cases, red lips are a little bit too much for me, and I think that this Victoria Beckham red lip, which is called Pop, I think, that it's a really nice red lip that's just a little bit softer and a little bit more easygoing than I feel like I can wear really for any occasion, and that doesn't take over my whole makeup look. And then I also have one of Victoria Beckham's blushes, and this is called Cheeky Posh, and the shade that I have is Playground, and it is kind of a terracotta shade. And what I will say about this blush is that I think that compared to most of the cream blush that I have, that this actually does last quite well on my cheeks. So I think that if you are a person that finds your cream blush often disappearing on you, then the blush that I would most recommend to you is the Honest Beauty cream blush. I think that those are really highly underrated, especially in terms of lastingness, but also in terms of the colors and in terms of how they go on. I think that especially for the price, but really for any price, that those are really terrific. But I would say that second on my list is really these Victoria Beckham blushes. And I only have this one shade, but I always feel like when I get it out that I probably should buy more of the different shades, because all of the shades do look really pretty, and I do think that this blush wears very nicely in terms of how it blends, how it looks, and especially how well it lasts. And then Victoria Beckham has two different mascaras, and the one that I am putting on is the newer one, and this one is called Vast Lash. And I think that this is actually a really nice mascara. It does give a fair amount of definition to my eyes, maybe a little bit more than I would prefer. But I think that it goes on pretty nicely. It hasn't been irritating at all. I haven't felt like I've needed to get out a spoolie to try to straighten things up. It's worn well. I've been able to wear it on windy days, slightly rainy days, walking the dog, and I don't feel like my lashes have been worse for the wear by the time that I've come home. And so in general, this is a mascara that I really like. I would like it if it were available in brown. If it were available in brown, I might even be willing to pay the amount that they are charging for it. But I do think it's a really nice product, and I would not mind using this again. As I've said many times on this channel, I do tend to be a little reluctant to spend a lot of money for a mascara because I've gotten into the habit of usually getting rid of mascaras after only a month or two because I'm afraid of getting another eye infection from a mascara. And so therefore spending this much money for a mascara, unless I'm just really, really crazy about it, to only use it for a month or two just seems like that's a little bit on the wasteful side. And there are a lot of other little mini mascaras like the ones from Calorie that I am able to use just fine. But if this one were brown, that would make it worthwhile. And now I will just do speed reviews for all of the rest of the Victoria Beckham products that she offers. So one is a contour pencil that is called Contour Stylus, and this is a pencil that she developed apparently because she wanted to contour her nose, and so she can just put it on really thinly and then smooth it in really easily. I think that as contour products go, this is actually a really nice one. It does blend in really easily. If I were going to contour, which I really never do, this would probably be a good pencil to start with because you don't put on very much and it doesn't look very obvious. And I still don't like the way it looks on me at all. I really don't want to contour my face. I think that maybe at some point it might have looked a little better on me, but as I get older, I don't think that women that are getting older probably have as much need to be emphasizing their cheekbones because of the lack of fat volume on their face, and I'm not interested in contouring my nose. But if you are, and especially if you're interested in contouring your nose, this might be a good choice. And it certainly is the case that apart from the Westman Atelier contour products, this is really the only one that I have found that I have thought would be okay for me at all. Most of the rest of the ones seem to be very, very difficult to create a natural look with, and that makes me not want to use them. Victoria Beckham also collaborated to make a few other products. So one of those is a priming moisturizer, and I did purchase a bottle of that, and I used most of it up. And I did like the product. I thought that it performed nicely. At the time, I wasn't as aware that Augustinus Bader's products might actually be doing something unusually good for my face, and so I wasn't really paying that much attention with regard to the primer. And I thought that in terms of it being a primer, it looked nice on my skin, but I don't even really feel like most of the time I need to use a primer. And I do feel like most of the time if I am using a primer, I'm mostly using it to protect myself from the irritating ingredients that are in my other makeup, and I'm not sure that that one was really ideal for that, because I don't feel like that one was necessarily that non-irritating for my skin to begin with. But a lot of people do really like that primer, and the person that I gave my leftovers to really, really liked it and bought a whole other bottle right away. So that may be a product that is worth considering for a lot of people out there. And then Augustinus Bader and Victoria Beckham, they also make a power serum. And again, my issue with this power serum, compared to other Augustinus Bader products, it seems less expensive. And what I'm not sure about is how much of the proprietary peptide it has in it and whether or not it would be better or worse. And so all of that uncertainty makes me a little bit disinclined to go ahead and buy it. And probably I will just continue to mostly be spending my money on the rich cream and just using more of it. Now this is a product that I forgot to put on today and that I will put on now. And this is called the Reflect Highlighter Stick. And it's just a way to add a little bit of moisturizing highlighting to your skin. It has a little bit of a shimmer to it, but it's really more of a type of reminds me a little bit of like Miracle Balm from Jones Road. It just gives a little bit of a dewy look to the skin that I think is very appealing. And so even though it seems like, especially when I use it on camera, it seems like it's not really that helpful. In real life, I think that using a product like this of some kind where it's giving hydration to the skin can be a really good thing, especially for women who have drier skin and who are getting older. When I first got the Victoria Beckham Posh gloss, I kind of liked it, maybe more than almost any other gloss that I had tried. It comes in this nice glass tube. I think that it was a really pretty color. It's kind of a neutral color, this poolside shade, and it had just a little bit of a reddishness to it, but I thought that it looked kind of elegant and posh, maybe, and that it doesn't have any scent in it. I thought that it tasted fine, but I will say that in less than a year that this actually did go so rancid that I wasn't really able to use it. And it does have some ingredients in it that you would expect to go rancid. And hopefully if you buy this, when you first get it from the factory, it will feel okay. But in general, I guess I would suggest using this up pretty quick because it does go. And so probably I wouldn't buy it again for that reason. There are a lot of other lip glosses on the market now that I really like that have held up better for me than this one. And then this eyeshadow, I have always really wanted to make this eyeshadow work, but I feel like it's been very, very difficult for me to get a good eye look from it. And I think it really is just the formula is not that great, and these are not very blendable shades, and I have gotten very spoiled because clean eyeshadows have progressed really monumentally since this was released in 2018 or 2019, whenever this company launched. And so I've really not gotten too much use out of this, and I think it would be really great if they were to come out with a new formula, but in this beautiful tortoiseshell packaging, because this is very nice. Unfortunately, this is not refillable, I don't think. The bronzer actually is refillable, so I still have hopes that they will come out with a new bronzer formula and that it will fit in my old tortoiseshell packaging so that I won't have to throw it away. But in this case, I don't think that they could make a new refill and put it in here because this doesn't seem to come out. And then the other product that I have tried is their Future Lash, and this is a tubing mascara, and I actually really like this in terms of how it looked on my eyes. I thought that it gave a very natural look that made it unclear whether I was wearing mascara or whether or not my eyelashes were just nicer than they usually are. I thought this was a very nice mascara for me anyway, and the only issue with this is that it was a little bit irritating, and when it was first released, or when I was first trying things, I would wear this anyway on occasion. But since then, there have been so many good mascaras released that do not irritate my eyes at all, that I would not suggest buying this again, at least myself. But I think that for people who don't have eyes that are as sensitive as mine, I do really like this one. And it does come in a glass tube, so that's kind of a little bit of a bonus. And then of the products that I haven't bought, there is a lip product that is called Bitten Lip Tint. And this one I think has some kind of ingredient like sorbitol or something in it. And I don't think that I would like that ingredient. And I have heard some people who are a little bit picky complain about the taste and suggest that it's like licking the back of an envelope. So that makes me not interested in buying that particular product. And there is an instant brightening waterline pencil. I think that is kind of an off-white type of a color. It's not going to be super, super bright. So personally for me, my eyes are so sensitive that I really don't want to put anything at all in the waterline. It's hard enough for me to find a good eyeliner or a good mascara that I can tolerate, but I certainly don't need to put anything in my eyes. So I haven't bought that. And finally, there are the Posh Balms. So these are brand new, and they've been out for a month or two. And I did think about buying one of these, and they're not scented, and they looked kind of pretty on people. But the reason that I decided not to purchase them is because they have cottonseed oil in them. And it has been my experience that cottonseed oil is always irritating to me in any kind of beauty product, regardless of whether it is for the lips or for the complexion or for the eyes. And I believe that the reason for that is because cottonseed tends to be very, very contaminated with agricultural chemicals in general. And in particular, I'm concerned about the glyphosate contamination. And I have not seen that cottonseed oil is available in organic form for cosmetic industry use, and I haven't yet found any products that have cottonseed oil in that I've been able to tolerate. So I've really just given up on buying anything that has cottonseed oil in them. Oh. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if you have tried any Victoria Beckham products, then please let us know what you think about those in the comments section. In addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then please go ahead and do that. And thank you very much for watching. Coco and I love you very much. Goodbye. La ba da la 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 bum